Right, so we need to learn about a midpoint. What do you think a midpoint is? Yep. The center of what? Good answer? Nearly. All right, I'm going to give you 2 points. Now what's a midpoint? Yeah, halfway in between. How have we found halfway in between things up till now? What process do you go through to find halfway between 6 and 10? You know it, but what did you do to get there? 6 and 10, halfway in between is? Halfway between 6 and 10? 8, good. What did you do to get there? Count. How many were between? 4. So we're going to go 2 in from each end, right? So the actual thing we're doing here is we're averaging those 2 points. So if I said 410 and 3,608, you don't want to be counting in from the ends. It'll take you probably the whole test just to be able to answer that. So if you've got 410 and 3,608, if we add them together and half that amount, we've gone halfway in between. So what does this look like? On a graph, if we've got this point, 6, 10, right? And we've got this point, negative 4, 2. All right? There's 2 points. So, if I want the midpoint, that is, join them up and find exactly, I could use a ruler and say, okay, it's there. All right? But that's not actually helping us to find it. So what we are going to do, this is coordinate geometry. We are dealing with the coordinates. So we've got 2 coordinates here, A and B. A was 6, 10, X first, then Y. B was negative 4, 2. Those are our coordinates, okay? We want to find halfway between them. We can just look, but the problem is in the assessment, to get the tick off, you need evidence. And the evidence is that for a midpoint, if you've got 2 coordinates, if A equals X and Y, the first point, and B equals X and Y, the second point, right, those ones up there, we can find the midpoint by adding them together, the X's, and dividing by 2, and the Y's, and dividing by 2. So, to justify that we can find the midpoint of those 2 points, in our example, we would go the midpoint of AB, that's the line joining A and B, is 6 plus negative 4 divided by 2, and 10 plus 2 divided by 2 equals 6 plus negative 4 is 2, divided by 2 is 1. If you can't do that in your head, use your calculator. Don't not use your calculator and get it wrong, okay? 10 plus 2, 12, divided by 2 is 6. All right? So what we are doing there is we are adding this length, so the first one, this length, and this length, which means that we're coming to here and halving it. So that's going to give us that 1 point. My red dot's way off, because the negative 6 is about as far away as my 6, so it's not very good drawing, but yours will be. And then the 6, so between 2 and 6, that's 8, and halfway is going to be 6. Any questions? All right, So the hard version of this question would look like this. If 3, -1 is the midpoint, between A, 5, 4, and B, X, Y, what are the coordinates of B? Okay. So what we've got this time is we've got some of the information in the answer. So what we know is that x1 plus this one, which we're going to make into 2, even though they didn't say it. So we're going to make those 2's. Has to equal what? The midpoint x value has to be 3. Alright, this is the midpoint, so the x value has to be 3. And we know that the first one, so 5 plus what divided by 2 equals 3. What divided by 2 equals 3? Good, 6. So 5 plus what equals 6? 1. So that tells us that x2 equals 1. Alright, now we have to do it for the y's. y1 plus y2 over 2 has to equal -1. Right? So we've got 4 this time. 4 plus something divided by 2 has to equal -1. Alright. So what divided by 2 equals -1? Come on guys, using our brains. What divided by 2 equals -1? What divided by 2 equals 1? What number divided by 2 equals 1? 2, good. Yes. So what divided by 2 equals -1? -2. So 4 plus what equals -2? 4 on the number line. 4 plus what equals -2? -6. Good. So in this case, y2 is going to equal -6. All right. So our B point, B is going to be 1, -6. Okay. All right.